friends, welcome back to episode 2 of my Hot Wheels life. What I'm going to do today is variations. So this is close to my heart and I'm just taking you guys through just all the different types of variations that are available. Hopefully there's some nice cars in there that you like to look at too, but at the end of it, hopefully you've got a pretty good knowledge of what you're looking for and the types of variations there are available and the difference between variations and errors. So anyway, let's get into it, and I'll go into my garage and set the table up and we can go through some of the variations I've got. Cheers guys. Well, here we are, sitting down in my garage. I thought for this episode I might just sit down here because I've got a lot of stuff to show you. So it's easy for me to sit at a table, and you know, I've worked out the focusing now too. So thank you for everyone who's jumped on board. Today what we're going to be looking at is variations. Now I know I said we'll look at supers, but I'll probably do that next week. Variations are what I really started collecting from the get-go when I first started collecting in 1997. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through, for all of you who might just be beginners, all the types of variations you can look for when you're out looking at the shelves. Now everyone runs out and grabs a super, gets all excited, but if you find the right variation, it's worth so much more than a super ever will. So it's a good idea to learn the different wheels and learn the types of different variations. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you examples of all of these different variations with some of my really hard to get cars. So if you know what you're looking at, or you're an advanced collector, you probably find something in here you'll like to see too. So anyway, what we're doing is we're going to be sitting down here for a little while. It's probably something that benefits the true collector. Some of the people who are just friends with me, who aren't into Hot Wheels and might be watching this, might be a bit snoozy after looking at this, but let me just go through it one at a time and I'll show you some really good cars and let myself get myself comfortable. And anyway, so let's go. First thing I should say with variations is the word variation is, let's say, some people want to use the dictionary term of variation when it comes to collecting, but variations in Hot Wheels is a very specific term. So anyway, what I'll do is I'll touch on that a bit further. The same as the types of wheels I'll go into in a different episode. At the moment, let's just go through the broader topics and then we can fine them down sort of in later episodes. So, all right, the first thing I should probably tell you is paint variations, right? Now, I don't count a variation as a re-release of a car. Now, what I mean by that is, say they do a Mustang Mark 1 in 2020 and they bring out another colour of it in 2021 that's got a totally different collector number. I don't class as a variation, I class that as a recolor. Now you know what, I've been collecting for a long time and I've mixed with a lot of variation people and a lot of them tend to agree with me, but there are some that don't, and they will, but each to their own, and I respect everyone else's opinions. But for mine, it's a lot easier if you type in variation on eBay and the actual variations come up, not just recolors, because recolors, you know, they make them for days and they're pretty easy to find. And what I want to do now is to encourage you to really look carefully at your Hot Wheels, because some of them might be worth a fair bit by just having those tiny little variations. So let's get started. 1998, which is when I first really started collecting variations, they released a yellow Mustang Mark 1. Now, this is collector number 670, all right, with Noah doing just broad range collector numbers. They made a really short run recolor, which is the Dayglow Orange, or some people call it Dayglow Pink. Now, I class those both as variations because it's the same collector number. Had they every subsequent release, every year after that, I don't class as a variation, I class as a recolor. So hopefully that's clear. The other thing is, I get asked just about on a daily basis on all of my pages. They say, I found a dark and a light. Hopefully you can see those clearly enough. So this is my examples of dark and light R34 blue skylines. Now, I've got a thing for R34s because I used to own one up until COVID. Hang on, come on, focus you. Hang on, I'll hide my face. There we go, that's the key. So, if you have a look at the top one, that has got more paint on it than the bottom one. And so the bottom one is obviously going to show the fresh metal underneath to a certain degree. So I don't class this as a variation because of the way they actually go about painting the cars. So if you ever have a look at the YouTube video of them painting cars, they have these trees that move along with all the little bare castings on, and they're standing there with a spray gun spraying them. Now some are going to get more and some are going to get less. It's just the nature of the way they actually manufacture it, the manufacturing process. So darks and lights, they're cool, and I usually grab one of each if I can, but I don't class them as official variations. So colour variations. All right, next we're going to wheels. Now wheels come in chrome or unchrome. So these ones are dish wheels. It's a pretty rare car, the black one. Hot Wheels haven't done this Alpha Prototipo, and it's a pretty nice casting. I tend to like it. But we've got the black wheel and we've got the chrome dish wheels. Another example, the .com minis. As you can see there, we've got the lace wheels, insanely hard to find, and we've got the 5-spoke. So that's just another example of a couple of different wheels that you can get. So another way that a car can be a variation, and they're showing up all the time, although they've been a bit slow lately. Now the other one I wanted to talk to you about is OH5 wheels versus MC5. Alright, so hopefully you can get this, and if you don't get it, I might try and take an individual picture of this and inset it down below. So if you have a look at this one here, now this is OH5, and you should be able to see through the spokes because OH stands for open hole. So you should be able to see the spokes through the spokes. The next one, exactly the same car as this, has MC5 wheels, which are called muscle car 5-spoke. Now that one there, you cannot see between the spokes. So that's how you differentiate between MC5s and OH5s. OH, open hole, MC, muscle car. Alright, so here's two examples of two different wheels. But unless you're really looking at them, you know, it's harder to pick than a broken nose. So, wheel variations. Now, the other thing with wheel variations, excuse me, it's hot in my garage today. The other thing with wheel variations is the lettering on tyres. So you might get what we have here. There we go. So this passing gasser I should say, the bottom one has got Hot Wheels Racing. And once again, if you can't see these right, I'm going to try and inset them later. And this one has got Goodyear written on the tyres. So, different types of rim, sometimes different types of tyre, and that is another way that a car can have a variation. So, next thing, and one of my favourite types is tempo variations. So, hopefully you can see these. It's a Ford Escort Rally, and if you have a look behind the wheel and see what's there, you will see that there is, well, I'll show the one with the tempo first. So have a look behind the rear wheel, and you'll see a grey tempo coming off the middle of the rear wheel on the rear fender. Now have a look at this one. Okay, so there we go. So that one's got no, let me hide. That one's got no tempo. So some of these tempo variations can actually be really big money. Now I'll give you an example. Have a look at these three. Alright, so we've got different colours here, but we don't have variations in colours. What we have is a recolor. Okay, so that is the first edition 69 Dodge Charger. Absolutely beautiful casting, opening bonnet, iconic muscle car, one of my favourites. Okay, so notice, very obvious flame tempo. Alright, so this was released in 2004, and that was the first time they'd ever made it, and so they'd made it black with the tempo. The next release, which was 2005, is the blue one. Okay, now the blue one is in the series, the Muscle Mania series. Okay, so that's how it's meant to come. But they decided to do something special and include the first edition tempos on the blue one in the next year's release. Now, on card, this is very, very hard to find. And if you found that in the shelf, it would have cost you $1 in America, $2 in Australia, Asia maybe equivalent to my $3. So if you found that, and if you got lucky enough to find extras, and you held on to it for a few years, this car's doing probably around 120 to 150 Australian dollars at the moment, maybe a bit more. So a $2 investment is all of a sudden turned into more than what a Super Treasure Hunt's worth, or the bulk of Super Treasure Hunts. So it's worth looking, folks. It's really worth looking. This one also appeared in multi-packs, but in the multi-packs it's actually got darker tint. So if someone's trying to fake one of these, if they put a multi-pack car on one of the cards, you could tell straight away. So if you find one of these out and about at a garage sale or on eBay, always check the windscreen, because if it's got the dark windscreen, it's from a multi-pack and it's been recarded and therefore a fake. So that's what you got to look for. And that's the thing about collecting variations. Sometimes it's hard. If you know what you're looking for, you can spot a fake a mile away, but if you're a beginner, so what I'd encourage you to do, if you are a variation collector and you have any questions, shoot an experienced collector some photos. If you know me, I'm always willing to help too. So let's move on to next, glass variations. Alright, so I'm a big fan of different glasses, whether they be tinted glass, clear glass, or in this case, blue on the top and tinted below. So let me just, the blue one is really obvious. Blue tint. So that one's the common one. So I have seen these going for 60 to 80 US back in the day. As I say, worth finding. And if you're at a garage sale or a swap meet, be looking for that car, the Custom 77 Dodge van with the blue glass, because that's a winner. The other thing they did, which was kind of nice of them, is they made pink window variations around 2009, 2010, and if you go to the Hot Wheels newsletter, you can find quite an extensive list on the actual cars that come in tinted pink windows and not. So I think it started out as an accident when they were running the machines to mould the glass, and they liked it so much they ended up doing a whole run of them. So here we go, we've got normal clear glass on your U-Butte Cobra, and then of course we've got quite a noticeable pink tint. So they're worth grabbing too, because you know, it gives you that extra thing in the collection that nobody else has got, because it's a lot rarer. The other thing is casting. All right, now this is one that sometimes they make changes. They'll take spoilers off cars that were plastic and end up making them metal. So obviously children with swallowing hazards, but sometimes they'll just do something like this. Mustang Mach 1. If you have a look, at the spoiler, there is a cast spoiler that is on the back. Now, they did a run of these without the spoiler. Now, people ask me if that's an error, but the casting is perfect, and they've covered the holes. So that's an example of a casting. That's a casting variation. So probably the most famous casting variation is this one. Now, I don't think this car needs any introduction. This is the Super Treasure Hunt. I was fortunate enough to be at one of the conventions before June Amai, the designer of this, before he left Hot Wheels, and so I got both of mine signed. And I've actually got a photo of, it was the first time he'd ever seen the variation that he'd heard of about. Now, once again, this is going to be really hard to do with the camera. I might actually try and get up closer so I can see whether you can see it. No, I'm not having a real... Oh, here we go. Okay, so if you have a look at that grill has got... Well, that's the mesh grill, basically, or coarse grill. Now, let me get this in the right angle. Come on, light. And here we go. Smooth grill. Come on. I'm hoping you can see that. So that is the smooth grill. So that's another casting variation, because the actual mold is different for both of these. Now, when this first came out, people were saying, "Oh, look, maybe it's just a build-up of paint." But if you've got a thing of paint stripper, pull a couple of main lines out, the two different ones, and when you strip it back, you'll actually see the casting is smooth, or the casting is got the grill marks in it, so it's got a coarse or fine grill. I won't get into all of the grill variations of Datsun in this episode, because this is just an introduction to variations. So, all right. So next thing, engines. They also make. Have a look at this. Once again, we'll go back to our trusty Parson gases. Chrome engine and unchromed engine. So if you can see there, the interior piece, which has got chrome on it, also extends to the engine and grille. And then of course we've got the, well actually no it doesn't, it's a separate one. So here we go, the engine here is a separate piece, because this has still got the chrome interior, and as you can see it's unchromed. So chroming and unchroming is a trick they use too, which is oh I forgot, one of my favourite interior variations. Let's go back a bit. The white interior versus black interior. So the colours of the interiors as well sometimes vary. So that Mustang Mark 1 on top with the white, that's pretty rare. That was going for around 20 to 30, no, sorry. That was going for around $20 to $30 at one point, but I hazard to guess the last time I saw one sell was a long time ago, and it's probably pushing around 60 now. I would hazard a guess. No. Okay, take a short break and I'll be back in 1 second. Okay, guys. So, one type of variation left is the card variation. Now, for me, I don't really do card variations, but you know, when there's nothing else to collect, sometimes with some of the big castings, like the Bugatti, the blue Bugatti, or the Datsun 510, you'll get a card variation, like a store exclusive card variation like this. Have a look at that card, pretty sweet card. Snowflake card from Target on the 57. So the snowflake cards are pretty popular. Also sometimes Japanese cards, short cards, long cards. People like to get a variation of each. I'm not really a variation collector of cards, but you know, if I find them or come across them cheap enough, I'll grab them. But for the most part, unless it's a big casting like a 55 Gasser or 510 Datsun, people don't really want to value it too highly. So anyway, another type is, of course, you've got your factory sets, okay, which have your stickers. There you go. So they're available once a year on the Redline Club on HotWheelsCollectors.com. And you buy a master set which has all the cars released in that year, saves you all the legwork of going to the shops. Then of course there's the transition cards that will be 2006. We've got the first edition 55 panel. Now, great car, got a little bike in the back. Then of course they transitioned to the next year's card halfway through the run. So these are both still the same collector number and both exactly the same car, but they were transitioning to the next year's release. So they did the first run with the typical 2006 card, and then of course the 2006 or 2007 I should say, all of the cars came out on that card. So they transitioned it, just changed over halfway through the run. The other thing you might notice too is blister variations. If you can see, one of these has a tight blister and the other one has a large blister. So probably the tight ones are better for the longevity, because if this gets posted it rattles around too much. So you've got two different types of blisters. Now I've got these because I came across them and it just so happened I went, hey, look at that. But generally it's not something I collect, but it is something I keep hold of. Alright, so next thing is errors. Now, a lot of people ask me to define what's an error and a variation, and the best explanation I can come up with was, do you think it was made on purpose like that? So when you get mismatched wheels with one 5-spoke and one PR5, it's clearly an accident, or they ran out of one and just threw the other. I would class that as an error. But like that, it's got a co-mold wheel on the front and 5-spoke on the back. Now, because it's a bone shaker and I do bone shakers, I'd grab that, and I found that personally on the shelf myself. So that's a wheel error. As I say, for values, it depends on the casting. If you have some fantasy car with two different wheels on it, you know, you haven't hit pay dirt, it's not worth a pinch. So let's look at this. This is a wheel variation. The PR5 wheels, Phil Ryman wheels, PR for Phil Ryman, 5 spokes. PR5 wheels, normally this came out with 5 spokes, but probably a $30 to $60 car in its day. As you can see there, no glass. So no glass errors. Yeah, I kind of like them. I'll grab them if I see them, but you know, not probably worth a lot of money. And then of course we've got the infamous tampo slip. Now, for those before, I probably should have made it clear. The decals or the stickers on the side of a car are commonly referred to as tampos, because the process that they have is more of a stamping process than a laying of stickers down. So here is what we call a tampo slip. So Zamac 55 gasser, and obviously when they've stamped it, it hasn't centered it right. So tampo slips are kind of cool. And then of course my favorite thing to collect in all of the world is nakeds. So that's when the tampo has not been applied at all. It's either gone through the process and hasn't been stamped at all, or for some other reason they've run out of ink, or should I say paint. Have a look at that. Now this is the AE86 Corolla. It does have tampos on the roof, and on the other side I think it does, but I'll never open it. So That is an absolute cracker, no tempo error. So I've probably got about 220 no tempo errors in my collection now, and it's one of the things I really like, and thank you for all the people who've wrote me no tempo errors over time. So look, that should probably bring to a close my introduction to variations. Now, I'm not an error collector. I grab them now and then, so thank you everybody for thinking of me, but please don't send me every error you find. It's a nice gesture, absolutely, and I do appreciate all of the rokes I get, but I've just got too many cars, and it would do you a disservice to send me a car and not have it displayed in favour of something else. So anyway, thank you guys once again. This has been the introduction to variation collecting, and I hope that there's something in your collection that is worth a bit of money that you didn't realise because you'd never noticed it had a difference in wheels. Now, in the future, I'll be going into more specifics, like the different types of wheels available, a lot more things about tempo and paint variations, but for the moment I'll just keep it simple and I'll sign off for now. Thank you everybody. Please subscribe because I'm going to be doing this more. Sorry I wasn't a bit more active, but I had lots of cars to show you today and I needed a table set up. So thank you guys for listening in again. Please tell anybody who you know that might be interested in collecting or interested in Hot Wheels. Please let them know about my YouTube channel, My Hot Wheels Life, and I'll be branching out into all different aspects of the way Hot Wheels has affected my life. I'll be doing my sales days, markets and stuff like that, and I'll get out and about and show you guys swap meets and stuff like that, and also getting inside and showing you a lot more in my collection. So we'll keep it at that for today. Thank you guys. I'll have another one coming at you. If I don't have much other work, it'll probably be midweek. If not, by next weekend there'll be another one up. So thank you for joining, thank you for listening, and please subscribe and tell your friends about it so they can subscribe too. Cheers guys.